Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Become a Better Man. My name is Tunde Disu, and you are very, very welcome to today's program. Over the past 2 weeks, in fact, this is our third week on this topic. But over the past 2 weeks, we've been looking at a particular topic, especially on the issue of rejection. The issue of rejection. And today we're continuing, hopefully rounding it off today. But today we're looking at an area of rejection where it is very close to the bone, and it is perhaps one of the most, if not the most painful form of rejection that any of us can experience. And so today we're looking at parental rejection. We're looking at parental rejection. What is parental rejection? What are the effects of parental rejection? And what exactly, how does it affect people and things like that? So today it's a very, very touchy subject. And so from the onset, I want to apologize to those who are going to be affected physically, emotionally, psychologically about today's topic. It is not meant to open up old wounds. It's meant for us to learn from it and find a way of how we can become better at who we are and what we are, especially for those of us who are now parents. Because some of the things that relates or that pertain to parental rejection are not very obvious. They are not very in your face type of something. And some of them are very subtle. They're almost unnoticed. And so by going through today's program, hopefully you will see and you will learn, you will pick up tips on how to maybe recognize whether you are unknowingly rejecting your child or your children, or if you have suffered or you've been through or you've experienced parental rejection. Hopefully by what we're going to be looking at today, there will be some closure, some healing, some soothing that will come through for you. And that is my intention, that is my purpose. So please, I apologize up front if this is a bit uncomfortable for any of the viewers. Thank you for indulging me on today's topic. The life that we live, this life that we live, it has its troubles. It brings issues and challenges, and there are things that we go through, that we experience, that we have to deal with. Even with the best of intentions, they still don't come out right. They don't come out well. They don't come out as we expect. And usually and normally, the effect, the implications, the repercussion of those things, they don't just remain with us. They affect other people around us. And sometimes, if not in most cases, they affect people that are very close to our hearts, people that are very close to us, our children, our parents, our spouses, our siblings, and things like that. So, because that is part of what life is about, I think it is worthy of our time and our effort, therefore, to get some understanding on some of these things, and maybe at the end of this program we'll have a better way of seeing them, of assessing them, of judging them, of handling them, of receiving and giving them, and ultimately of knowing what to do when we come across them. Rejection, like we've said in the past 2 weeks, the pain of it is just beyond what you can put in words, because different people will experience the rejection in different ways, and therefore the pain, the effect of it, it's also individual. It is also unique and specific to the people that are experiencing it. All I'm trying to say is two people can experience exactly the same form of rejection, even from the same parent or from the same person. But the way they will process it, the way they will handle it, the way it will affect them could be completely different based on the individual differences of the people involved and also the circumstances that under which the rejection is inflicted on them. Rejection by our friends, by our peers and our colleagues, they are very painful, they are very hurtful, they go deep. But irrespective of how deep and painful and hurtful they could be, the rejections that people experience and suffer in their home is usually far more destabilizing and devastating than what you experience from your friends and your colleagues and your peers. And the reason for that is simple. Home is where you expect security, you expect unity, togetherness, oneness, you expect love and care and all of that. So when rejection is coming from the home front, it cuts to the deep, it cuts to the bone, it goes beyond. And usually it doesn't just end up, it doesn't rest in your physical, the physical pain that you experience. It goes further to your psyche, to your emotions, to your self-worth, to your person. And so when it comes to parental rejection, you can imagine how a child, well, we can imagine it if we haven't experienced it really. It's easy to say, oh yeah, I understand what you're going through, but if you've never been there, you can't understand. Now, you may have an idea, you could have read about it, you could have seen about it, but to know it, you have to. Like Bob Marley said, those who feels it, they know it. Those who are at the cutting edge and at the receiving end of rejection, they are the only ones that can explain or try to explain in some cases what it feels like to be in that situation. So rejection in the house, rejection at home is usually more devastating, and it goes deep into the psyche, into the being, into the person that is experiencing it. So what exactly is parental rejection? When we talk about parental rejection, what are we talking about? Simply put, parental rejection is the denial or the continual denial of acceptance, of affection, of love, of care, of the sense of being a person. It goes to the recognition of yourself as a person. So the denial or the continual denial of these seemingly but very important factors of life are some of the ways by which parental rejection can be defined. We're talking about denial of acceptance, denial of affection, denial of love, of care, of provision, of protection. All those things, they go a long way to form part of what people refer to in their experience as parental rejection. The effect of being rejected by a parent can seep into other areas of your life. Like I said, it goes deeper than the physical. It affects every part of your being with varying consequences depending on the specific situation under which you experience this rejection. Now, you may be wondering, wait a minute, I thought this platform is all about become a better person, become a better person, become a better you, become a better man. Well, I mean, what has this got to do with the platform? I can tell you everything. I am talking from experience, from having a hands-on life experience and life knowledge and the privilege of sitting down with people who have been through this and the effect it has had or it is having on their lives, on their relationships, at work, in their person. It brings me to the point of understanding, therefore, that if this aspect of this person's life is not there, if this part of what they are dealing with is removed or is inoculated or is taken, the pain is taken away, then this person will have a better opportunity or a better chance of becoming the real person that they are destined to become. So that is why we're looking at this particular topic. And like I said, I understand how fragile and how sensitive it is, and I'm not taking it lightly. I can assure you that. So, depending on the specific situation and circumstance of the person who has suffered or who is suffering rejection, will determine how much of this is affecting not just their emotion but their other areas of their lives. There is no doubt in my mind that parental rejection is generally, it is mostly accompanied by pain and other emotions that usually follow people through their childhood, through their adolescence, teenage, adult, and sometimes for the rest of their lives. I said last week that I've had the honor and the privilege of sitting down with grown men who are now fathers, who are grandfathers, grown women who are mothers and grandmothers, couples and individuals who are on the surface doing great. They are excellent in everything. Their life is together. They have good business, a good job, and the family is okay. But underneath the suit and the jacket, underneath the gown and the sweater, there is a cry out. There is a pain. There is a wound that has not been healed over the time. And when you look back at the genesis of that wound, you realize that this is coming from their childhood, where they started together, something that happened when they were little, when it was seemingly nothing, and yet it carries on for the rest of their lives. There have been people who again, I used this example last week. I know of a man who has everything you can ask for as a man, and yet there is the pain in his heart that if only his father would just acknowledge, would just accept him, would just praise him, and just recognize what he has become in his life. Now, the challenge to that is, even though the father might want to do that, but the father is dead over 10, 15 years ago. So this man, in his adulthood, in his late 50s or early 60s, is still looking and craving for acceptance, affection, for love, for care, for recognition from a father who is dead and never to come back again. So you can begin to, I'm saying this so that we can try and understand how deep and how serious parental rejection can be in the life of a person. In a family, there are various form of rejection. And some of them are directly not from parents. It could be from siblings. It could be from uncles and aunties. But within a family, quickly, let's look at some examples of the type of rejection that people, not in an obvious way, will experience or could experience in their families. For instance, in a family with more than one child, if one child is being preferred, or one person is being preferred to other or to another, maybe there are just two children, and it is obvious that maybe one parent or both parents prefer this person to that person. Now, you may say, well, you are equally my children, I love you and all of that. But it goes beyond that. It could be in things of the other one being given extended privileges over the one that is experiencing or going through a form of rejection. By extending some privileges to one child over another for no apparent reason, for no genuine reason, for no other reason, apart from the fact that you prefer this child, Well, the one that you are not given that privilege automatically assume and receive that as a form of rejection. Another example is allowing one sibling to have certain freedom over others. Now you've said, right, children, in this house, every child will do their chores. Every child will have their own assignment. Every child will do this. But somehow, some of the children or one of the children is being given extra freedom that others are not enjoying. Immediately, it puts the others to start to ask, what's that all about? Now, there could be a reason. Say, for instance, because of age appropriateness, maybe you can't go out till 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock because you are still a teenager, but your sibling who is already an adult can be given that privilege. Unless it is something like that, when children feel you are treating one, you are giving freedom to one and not extending the same to another, they immediately see that as a form of rejection. Now, as a parent, you could say, no, I'm not rejecting you, I love you. But to the child who is at the receiving end, that is what they see. Another way by which a child will feel rejected is as a parent, when you promise a child, you give your word to a child, and you don't follow through on that word or that commitment. Now, to you, oh, come on, it's just I really wanted to come to your play, but now you may have, as far as you're concerned, you may have a good, legitimate reason. But to that child, the message the child is hearing is, yeah, I think you are not worthy of my time. You are not worthy. When I compare you with the other options or the other things I need to do, this is the way I'm going. So by not following through on your commitment to a child, they see that as rejection. I know as a parent, we have a lot of balls that we're juggling and a lot of things we're trying to make happen, and all in most cases for the sake of our children, which is our duty. It is our obligation, it's our responsibility. But in all of that, we must also factor in the essence of what we're doing. And we're doing them because of our families, because of our children. I remember when we started on this platform, one of the things I said, especially to men, was men are good at firefighting. They want to put out the fire here. They want to take care of that. They want to look after them. And all of that. And we're running about. And when you stop a man and say, why are you doing all of this? He will tell you with pride that I'm doing this for my children. I'm doing this for my family. And rightly so. But you can do all of that and still lose that family. Because if you don't take care of the home, if you don't pay attention to what's happening to your children, how you relate to them, I don't care how much money you bring to the house, the child won't still feel that you love them. Another way by which children will, in a family, we're talking about in a family, another way by which children will feel rejected is when you don't spend quality time together as a family. Yes, we're all busy. But you remember we did a program recently where we're talking about the difference between what is important and what is urgent. And the ability to demarcate and differentiate between these two parameters is of paramount importance. It's so crucial to what we come out with our lives. What is important versus what is urgent. But usually we run after what is urgent because we have to do it now, because we need to do it now. It has to be done now. Good as that may sound, we're doing that at the neglect of what is important. But the danger, the downside to it is there will always be something urgent that requires your urgent attention, your immediate attention, your expedient attention. But what is important? Because it is that which is important that will last. Another way, and this is especially, this next point is very common in African homes. It is where you constantly you interrupt your child from talking, or you don't allow them to speak their mind. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm full-blooded African. I mean, you don't get more African than me, and I was bred, buttered, and raised in an African home. And so I know where the lines are, I know what is expected of me and all of that. But at the same time, you also got to recognize that this person that is a child is a whole human being in a small body. And you are also a whole human being in a big body. That's the difference. Therefore, just because they are in a small body does not mean they don't have a voice, they don't have an opinion, they don't have a mind. But in most African homes, we interrupt our children. Don't say that. Who do you think you are? Who's talking? And we do all of that. But the more you do that, the more you strive for the ability for that child, number one, to be an individual. Number two, to have a mind, to have an idea, to have an opinion. But worse than that is the ability to express that opinion and express that mind freely without fear of or intimidation. And if that continues over a period, that child will become withdrawn inward. They will not have the self-esteem and self-confidence, and all of that will go out of the window. Another form of rejection in a family is where you don't show interest in what your child is interested in. If you don't show interest, I mean genuine, not lip service interest, if you don't show deep interest in what your child is interested in, your child will see that as a form of parental rejection. See, the Bible very clever said, train a child in the way he should go. When they grow up, they won't depart from it. Now, a lot of people have interpreted that to say, you tell your child, go to church and read your Bible and train them. You can't do this, you should do that. Yes, all of that is included. But when you read when you look at the mindset, when you go deeper into the understanding of that scripture, actually what he's saying is, study your child. Identify what is your natural inclination, what is your natural liking, what is it they default to naturally. Once you identify that, then help that child to focus and develop that interest, that natural bend, that natural inclination. Because the more they develop that, as they grow up, that interest will only increase and develop and become bigger. And therefore, when they grow up, they won't depart from it, because that's an interest that has been built in them. It's a natural interest that you have helped them to develop over time. But when you don't see it, you don't recognize it, you don't appreciate it, you don't develop it, you don't encourage the child, to the child, it's a form of rejection. I know some of this some of you are thinking, well, no, that's not, I don't think so. Well, you may not think so. I am just airing what I've seen, what I've studied, what I've learned, what I have experienced in a one-on-one personal face-to-face counseling. Another way by which a child will feel rejected within a family is where you withhold compliments and praise from a child. When you withhold compliment and praise from a child, children are children. And they you see, one of the fallacy of adulthood is that we we look at our children from an adult point of view, and so we put the expectations of an adult on them without really stepping back to recognize and appreciate the fact that these people are still in their developmental stage. They are still growing, they are still learning, they are still experiencing things. So when you withhold compliments or praise from a child, they see that as rejection. I don't care how small it is. Well done. I'm proud of you. Wow, you done great. You are just unstoppable. You can't praise a child too much. I don't subscribe to the mindset that, oh, if you praise them too much, they'll become stupid. No, I don't subscribe to that. You can, every human being, I don't care how old you are or where you are in life, every human being will develop and evolve fully to who they are in an environment of praise and support than in an environment of criticism. It is natural. It is natural. Another way by which your child or a child in a family will feel rejected is when you don't show up at their events. You don't attend their school play, you don't attend their parents teacher consultation evening, you don't go for their sports, you don't. That is a way of a child thinking, am I being a burden to these people? Am I really part of this family? Because every child wants to feel, I didn't just drop from heaven. I am part of a larger body beyond myself. And that is the family. Now, what we've looked at so far relates to children feeling rejected within a family. But when it comes to parental rejection, quickly let's look at some of the ways by which parents or children feel rejected by their parents. But the one that really touched me when I was preparing for this program is that all these that we're going to look at as ways by which parents physically, deliberately, openly reject their children, it has nothing to do with the child. Nothing to do with the child. For instance, some children are rejected by a parent or by both parents because, quote and unquote, they were born via unexpected pregnancy, unplanned pregnancy. We didn't plan for you. We weren't expecting you. Well, if you don't do the do's, if you don't sow, you won't reap. So once you start sowing, whether you plan for it or not, guess what? You've activated immediately the concept, the law of harvest, and it's coming. In good time, pressed down all the way, coming back to you. So to now take out your anger, frustration, your disappointment, and all of that on a child that was born out of a relationship or a union between husband and wife, to now take that feeling of we weren't ready for you, we were not expecting you, to take that out on the child, I think it's unfair. I think it's child abuse at the highest level. But you see, a lot of parents, some parents will maltreat and malhandle and reject a child just because they said we didn't plan for your pregnancy. Another form of parental rejection, again, that has nothing to do with the child, is where a couple or a family has had a baby, and just within a short period of having that baby, they suddenly find out that they're expecting another child. Now, they either take out the anger and the disappointment, the whatever it is you want to call it, either out on the child they already have or the one that's on the way. Oh, I can't be doing this. I got my own life to live. I can't just be running after children and on and on and on and on and on. But you see, Just because you don't feel like it's a good time, just because you don't feel that you are ready, just because you don't think this is what I want in my life at this time, what has that got to do with the child? But usually, people take it out on the child or the children when it has nothing to do with them. Another form of parental rejection is children that, quote unquote, born out of wedlock. When a child is born out of wedlock, usually there is the situation at home. How do you explain to your wife? How do you explain to your husband? And all of that and all of that. But hey, the child is here now. What are you going to do? You can't suffocate the child or bang or whatever. The child is here. So don't take it out on the child. The child did not choose that you should have him or her outside of your marriage, outside of a matrimonial home. If you choose to play away and you get the result, then you have to live with the consequence, not the child. Some people reject their child that were born with disability. Again, it has nothing to do with the child. In some tradition and religion, they only want or expect a certain gender in their children for whatever reason. So when a child is born that is not of the gender they expect, maybe they only want girls, and now they have a boy, immediately the disappointment is heaped on that boy. It's nothing to do with the boy. He didn't choose to push the girls away and say, I'm the one coming. It's the boy. Hallelujah. In some cases, they only want boys, and then they have girls, and then girls, and then girls, and they say, oh, typical men. They say, oh, it's the wife. Then they go out and marry another person, and then they'll have another girl, and another girl, and another girl. It has nothing to do with the child. So don't take it out. Don't reject a child just because that is not the gender of a child you're expecting. In some cases, when a child is born in a polygamous house, they can also experience parental rejection. Because suddenly they now arrive and there is about 15 others that the parent have to look after and cater for and whatever. Then there's sibling rivalry. Then there is everything that happens in a polygamous home going on. Well, it has nothing to do with the child. But children can feel rejected because of some of these things that we're looking at. Parental rejection. They are the most hurtful, most painful, and most devastating form of rejection that any human being can experience. Rejection takes the form of reality, both for the children and in some cases for the parents. You see, there's an old saying, if you define a situation as real, eventually it will become real, and so will the consequences of it. So if your child or your children perceive you are rejecting them, if they sense that they are being rejected, guess what? They will start to believe that they're being rejected. Now, you could say, no, why would I? You're my child. Why would I reject you? But it's not what you say. It is what the vibe they're receiving. Is the treatment they are experiencing. Is the way they are feeling from you that tells that child whether they are accepted or rejected. So when a child feels rejected, or they perceive that you are rejecting them, guess what? Over time, they will start to believe that, yes, I'm being rejected. And remember, 2 weeks ago, we defined rejection as something that has no value, and all you can do is to throw it away. So imagine a child feeling, I really don't have a value to add to this family. I don't belong in this household. I just crossed here by accident, and therefore I'm not worthy to be here. That will over time form a stronghold in that child, and the child will ultimately suffer from it, as we'll find out in this program as we go along. So usually rejection is more real to the person that is at the receiving end than the person that is dishing it out. And usually that is one of the bone of contentions when it comes to the issue of rejection. Because the person giving it out is saying, no, I love, if you cannot open my heart, it's only your name there. I love you with everything. But the person is saying, yeah, you say that. But that's not what that's not what I'm receiving. And again, as parents, these are things that we need to pay attention to in our children. Now, does that mean we have to be paranoid and be? No. It doesn't mean we have to be jelly and be shaking and no. That's not what I'm saying. It requires that we pay attention. We don't ignore the silent cry for attention, the telltale signs that a child is giving as a perceived way or as a perception of being rejected. When you hear your child saying things like, oh, mommy, I think you like my sister more than me. Now, if it's just a throw-off comment, you could just... But when it becomes almost a pattern, at every given opportunity, it might not be in those words, but ultimately that is the message that's being sent out. That is a telltale sign for you to pay attention. That is the time for you to bring that child and see that child and pour your heart out to that child. Or is that indulgence? No, it's not. Because if you don't do that today, that child could live with that mentality for the rest of their lives. And it will affect their own relationship, their own children, ability to work, and on and on and on and on it goes. Only because you fail to spend the next 15, 20, half an hour if need be, just letting that child get that feeling, that sense, that thought out of their system while you're still able to. Or if your son says, Dad, you never have time to play with me. Whoa, that immediately is telling you you've got an issue there. Or Dad, are you going again? When are you coming back? Maybe, all right, when we see you. Now, you could take that to be a joke or a laughing matter, but no, there is a message in it. There is a message in it, and you must pay attention to it. And you must look into it closely. You must take it with all seriousness. Because if not, that child or those children, they are crying out for your attention, for your acceptance, for your love, for your care, for your person, not what you provide, your person. The problem with, or the problem with parental rejection is that, to use the phrase, it's a gift that keeps on giving. I know that's if a child perceives that they are being rejected, if a child feels there is a parental rejection or a family rejection or rejection in general, over time they will grow up to have issues with self-worth, self-esteem, self-confidence, self-belief will just evaporate from that child's life. That's number one. What I will do, or that what I will say to that child is that you have little or no value. There is no value out of you. Can anything good come out of Nazareth? You have nothing to offer. And because that child now start to think they have no value, they will act out the same valuelessness. And because they are putting out that image, they are portraying that tendency, it causes other people around them to not value them, to not appreciate them, to walk all over them, even though they may have a great contribution to make. But because the vibes going out is that I'm not valuable, I don't have anything to offer, others around them by default will take them for granted, will not value them, will not appreciate them. Now you can see that all that will do is to reinforce the sense of lack of self-worthiness. Such child in life over time, they will stop, they will refuse, they will detest putting themselves forward for life opportunities, even when it is within their grasp. In their mind, they're thinking, oh, this is not for me. Not me. Oh, no, please, not for me. When in actual fact, they are the best for that particular opportunity. It starts with a feeling of rejection from the parent. And so when they don't put themselves up for opportunities, when they refuse to step out and exert their gift and their calling and their destiny and their potentials, others around them will perceive the same thing. And so when they're discussing, for instance, in a group, in a setting, in a community, in a congregation, or they're thinking of who can we give this assignment, who can we put in this position, who can we assign this task to, guess what? They're not thinking of that child. Because of the sense of lack of self-worth, which started back way when that child was a toddler, back down when that child was a teenager. So you can see the projection. That child will be in a position where in their heart of heart, they know this is the person I want to spend the rest of my life with. But lack of self-worth is like, are you for real? Can you not see yourself? You talk to that person. I mean, come on, know your level. And because of that lack of self-worth, a lot of people have walked away from their life partners that will have brought out the best in them, but because of lack of self-worth. I'd like to hear what you're thinking, how you're thinking, what you feel about what we're discussing. Because this is in all of our houses, is in all of our lives. We are either children of somebody or we are parents of somebody. And all these has to do with us becoming the best that we could be, that we should be. So please don't leave me out here to dry. Say something. Let me hear some of your thoughts and some of your contribution and your suggestions and your views and your experience as regarding what we're talking about tonight. Quickly, while you're doing that, let's go and look at some of the effects of parental rejection. We've talked about self-worth, which is the same thing as self-esteem. Depending on your child's sense of acceptance by the parent or both parents, a sense of rejection is built into that child. And that child will grow up one day to become an adult. When that child, who is now an adult, in their adulthood, are still looking up to their parents for acceptance, for confirmation, for affirmation, for love, the more the adult looks up to that same parent, still expecting that same love and care and support and affirmation and acceptance, the more that is not forthcoming, the more it reinforces the sense of rejection, even in their adulthood, and the more the pain goes deeper into who they are. You see, to whom much is given, much is required or much is expected. When you look up to someone for something and that is not forthcoming, you feel the disappointment more than when you're not expecting it and it didn't come. So it's really neither here nor there. But especially when it has to do with your parents or your own children as a parent, and they are looking up to you, they are expecting something from you, and usually it is nothing to do with anything physical or anything material. It is to do with your affection, your love, your care, your acceptance, your affirmation. When they don't get it, it reinforces and concretizes that sense of rejection. And that crushes their self-esteem. A survey was done sometime in America, and they were asking people, what is your greatest fear? What is the one thing you fear the most? Funny enough, death was not number one. To die and completely pass out and die dead, it was far down the list. The number one fear that most people have is speaking in public. Now, you could say, well, that's understandable. No, it's not. It's not. You speak one-on-one with people. You speak to your family. You speak to your colleagues. You will go to football and scream your lungs out. But when it comes to speaking to a group of people, to a crowd, a congregation, people just can't handle it. Part of that is nothing to do with the crowd. Part of that is that you're questioning, what do I have to tell these people? What do I have to give? Why should these people listen to somebody like me? So you self-defeat, self-beat yourself up to the point that some people will physically be sick before going shaking and trembling to speak to the crowd. It comes down to self-esteem. Another effect of parental rejection is intimate relationships. The effect that a parental rejection will have on your intimate relationship. See, being rejected by a parent, when you grow up as an adult, it affects the relationship that you have, especially with your spouse. Take, for instance, if you have a history of rejection from a parent, when you get married, it is so easy for you to start seeing the traces of your parents and the feeling of their rejection towards you to start seeing that in your partner, even though it may not be there. And so you tend to become very defensive or easily provoked and sensitive to little things because they only remind you, they reinforces you the insecurities that you already have because of the parental rejection that you suffer when you were a child. Your spouse could love you with all of their everything. Could be the best thing that anybody can ask for or wish for. But because of your history, you have the tendency of seeing the rejection from your parents in your spouse when it's not there. Another effect of parental rejection on a child, especially when that child becomes an adult, is it affects also the relationship that you have with your children. It affects the way you relate to your own children. For instance, because you have had this history of rejection and whatever from your parents, when you have your own children, you can either become overly protective or overly suspicious of them. You have the tendency of misinterpreting what your child is saying or doing or trying to say or trying to do. The same way you will see your spouse as a reminder of the rejection that you suffer, it is possible for you to start seeing the rejection that you suffer even in your children. Now, I know it don't sound logical, but trust me, it is real. Especially when that child has grown to maybe teenage or late teen years or early 20s. And so you can't see, for whatever reason, you can't see beyond that child that you brought back from hospital. You can't see beyond that child that you hold his or her hand to walk across the road. You can't see beyond that child that you put on in his or her pram and they were there till you finish and you were ready for them. So now that the child has grown and they are in a position where they can make a decision, make a suggestion, have an opinion, it is easy as a parent for you to start seeing their opinions or their decisions as a rejection of you as a parent, when in actual fact it's not. It's not. What can we do? We can definitely look at what is true acceptance and how can we project to our children a sense of acceptance, a sense of love, of care, of affection, of being part of the family. You see, our children want us to be loved and want us to love them. That's all they want. All we have to do as parents, this segment is for us parents now, all we have to do is not just to say in our mouth or have it in our heart that we love them. No, we have to mean it and we have to show it. You have to mean that you truly love your child. Now, you may say, come on, why would anybody not love their child? Why would they not mean that they don't? Trust me. These are things I have seen. So you have to mean and genuinely in your heart mean that you love your child and don't hesitate to show it, to express it, to demonstrate it, to say it. When I talk to my children over the phone, irrespective of what we're talking about, how long or how short the conversation is, at the end of the conversation, the last word or the last sentence out of my mouth is, I love you. Now, whether they say it back to me or not is immaterial. Yeah, it's good for them to say, but I'm not hanging out my shirt on that. But I want my child, I want my son and my daughters to always hear it from me at every given time, at every given opportunity, that I love them. And I don't care where I am, who is there with me, whatever. It's immaterial. When I speak to my child, my son or my daughters, at the end I'll say, I love you. And I mean it. And they know I mean it. You have to mean it. You have to show it. You have to express it. You have to say it. You have to demonstrate it for them to know. Number 2, as parents, our children, they're not looking for perfect parents. No, they're not. Although we think that is what they're looking for. No, they are not looking for a perfect parent. So we need to cut ourselves some slack of slaving to be perfect parents, because the truth is we can never be perfect parents. We're human beings and we're not perfect as human beings. So if we're not perfect as who we are, how can we be perfect at what we're doing? So our children are not looking for perfect parents. So cut yourself some slack. Chill. Take a chill pill. Don't kill yourself trying to be a perfect parent. Also, they're not looking for us to be clowns and be and be playful and cheerful and all of that all the time. There's a place for everything. There's also a place and a time for them to be disciplined. You see, love and discipline are the two sides of the same coin. If you love somebody too much without discipline, that person will hate you for the rest of their lives. If you discipline somebody too much without love, that person will hate you for the rest of their lives. So one have to balance the other. Your demonstration of love has to be balanced by your demonstration of discipline. Now, does that mean you whoop them and kick them? No. Discipline doesn't necessarily mean inflicting pain on them. Discipline is training them to have values, to know what they stand for, what is the where the lines are as a family, what is acceptable norm, what are the character traits that is expected of them. And when they cross that line, the discipline, the obligation on your part as a parent is to bring them back in line by saying, no, you've gone beyond the boundary, come back online. Does that mean you don't love them? In fact, in most cases, that's the highest form of demonstrating your love for them. So you have to love them, but also don't shy away from disciplining them. I don't mean beating them or spanking them, but hey, I was spanked. I mean, you talk of spanking. If I pull off my sleeve, you. But look at me. I didn't die. It kicked the foolishness out of my life quicker than you can say good morning. So there is a place for discipline. Our children are not looking for perfect parents, but they're looking for love and equal quantity, equal dose of discipline. We need to be around them physically as much as possible. You need to be emotionally available for them. You need to free yourself from other distractions, from doing the urgent things at the expense of the important things. You need to express your praise freely, lavishly on them. You need to let them know your feelings, how you're feeling. One of the things that I thank God for about my family is that whatever is happening in any of our lives, we sit down together and we talk about it. I know some people say, well, no, you don't tell your children everything. Fair enough. But there are certain things that it doesn't take away from your position or your person as a parent if you share that with your child. When I lost my job, I sat my family down and said, guys, this is what has happened. This is where we are, but don't worry, we are together. And for the fact that we're together, we will come out. And we did. Rather than for me hiding it from them, rather than for me pretending no, that it's not helping them, it's not helping me. Another way of true acceptance is that to make our children feel accepted, we need to purposefully talk to them. Purposefully talk to them. Listen to them. Hear their hearts. Take them seriously. Make time for them and be genuine and available to them. You have to talk to them. Your child is never too small for you to talk to, or too young or too old to talk to. You have to listen to them. Like I said, they are our children, but they are a whole human being in a small body. That's all that differentiates them from us. We're a whole human being in a big body. That's all. So listen to them. Don't just listen with your ears. Listen with your heart, from your heart. That's how you will hear not what they are saying, but what is in their heart. And when they talk to you, take it serious. Pay attention. Make time for them. Be genuine and available and earn their trust. Just like you want them to trust you, earn their trust as well. Also, accept your child and let them feel loved because of their position as your child, not because of just their performance. Accept your child and love your child and demonstrate the acceptance and the love primarily because they are your child, not just because of their performance, either educational performance, social performance, spiritual performance. No. The number one point of acceptance is the fact that you are my child. I say this to my children. I've said it over and over again. At every given point, I'm telling them. I say, look here, guys. I'm your father. There is nothing on earth that you can do that can make me turn my back on you. If you are ever in a jam, if you ever find yourself in a position that you feel, my goodness, let it be known to you that the first person you want to call, the first person you want to talk to, the first person that you need to know has got your back is daddy. Now, we can deal with all the shenanigans later, but at that point, you're my child. I would shed the last drop of blood in me to support you, to be there for you, to cater for you, to provide, to love you, to... You know what that will do to a child? They won't need to hide things from you. irrespective of how terrible it might seem, irrespective of how wonderful it is, guess who the first person they want to talk to about it is? Because you have earned their trust. You have given them your word, and you have demonstrated over time that they know they can call on you. One of the things I love the most is the fact that the relationship between my wife and our children is so solid. They can talk about anything. Does that take away from our position or our person or our parental responsibility or level of what? No. But it gives the children, it gives our children the knowledge and the confidence that mommy and daddy is coming back. No one is perfect. And we don't need to pretend to be perfect to our children. We are all human beings. We make mistakes here and every now and again. But hey, guess what? We will come through. We will come through. So there's no need for us to be super sensitive. But we need to assure our children that we love them, that we accept them as they are, as our children, primarily, not because of what they do or didn't do, what they become or didn't become. When we demonstrate that, then our children will become the true person that they are meant to be. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time tonight. This is something, as you can see, I am passionate about it because of what I've seen, what I have heard, what I have had to walk through with people. Love your children. Don't just love them. Let them know. Show it to them. Demonstrate it. And they'll give you peace. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your patience, for your love, your commitment, your dedication. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share this space and this time with you every week. I hope something that is said tonight will go and help someone, somewhere. Don't keep it to yourself. Share it with others. Click the share button so that others can partake of what we've discussed tonight. You may just be somebody's helper. You may just be helping a family to come through a challenging situation. But remember, we have a purpose, we have a goal, we have a destination, we have a destiny. And we're not going to give up, we're not going to cave in, we're not going to back down, we're not going to even consider quitting. Because what is ahead of us is far, far greater than what's behind us. So until next week when we meet again on this platform, this is Tunde Disu saying, God bless you